Regardless of the project, always take the time to fit pieces together carefully. Once welded, these parts obviously are immovable, and so I'm going to use a magnet here for this initial fitment, matching the size of the plates. I want to leave a slight void on the corner so we have a place to fill metal, and I'll show you that close up in just a second before I tack weld this in place. Notice how I set up the corner with a void. I want to fill that with the filler metal. I'm going to be using ER70S2, so we'll have very strong corner joints, as strong as the filler metal and its diffusion with the base metals that you see in this 16 gauge sheet. For tack welding, I can use filler material, or I can just heat the metals to the point of fusion, melting point, and fuse this joint without the use of filler. I use the magnet to fixture these pieces, but at the same time, I want to keep the heat away from the magnet. The magnet could become damaged if I were to heat it. We're using a number 2 tip on our torch, oxy-acetylene, each set at 4 psi, approximately 4 or 5 psi. I'll run a neutral flame in this case because we're welding, and we'll get started. Okay, I'm striving for a neutral flame here, and we'll conserve gas. Again, I'm using 16 gauge. I was going to work with larger gauge metal, but for the purpose of practice sessions, it's foolish to waste the gas and filler material. I can introduce filler material, but I'm going to demonstrate first off that just fusing these two corners together with heat is sufficient for a tack weld. That's actually a tack right there. If we want to introduce filler, we can do that, and that would be heating each of these corner pieces to a molten level and introducing the filler rod like that. It's a nice tack. That'll get the job done. And since I'm going to make a box out of this, I'll set the second 2 pieces against the magnet. You can see I already have this tacked on one side here, and I've aligned these the same way I aligned the first 2 pieces. I'll go ahead and tack this joint right here. Now we have a box forming. These 2 subsections, this one and this one, are tack welded on the corners. I'll square this up and tack weld here and here. Again, we'll go to a neutral flame. ER70S2. Filler. Bring each of our corner pieces to a liquid state and introduce the filler. There's our tack on that corner. And back here. Liquefy the metal in both pieces evenly. Notice that I draw the heat evenly. Introduce the filler. There's our tack weld on that corner. While this is in position, I'll turn it over. I'm going to tack all 4 corners on the bottom side very quickly so we don't have to relight the torch 3 more times. A lot of heat here, so you want to pull your heat away. Again, we're just making tacks on these corners, strong fusion between the 2 corner pieces. Using ER70 S2 1/16 inch rod. This is 16 gauge metal. Uniform heat on each of the corner pieces. They're starting to liquefy. I introduce the filler, and there we have all 4 corners on top and bottom are tacked. Okay, we have strong tack welds on all 4 corners, top and bottom. I've allowed this to cool down a little bit so I can handle it. At this point, I'm going to do the actual seams. I'm going to weld on each of the corner seams.